This is the Starman Podcast, and today we have two special guests. We have Mr. Tenda, Max.
Hey, it's good to be here. So happy to... Oh, no, thank you. No, that's not necessary. Please.
And we have Hyperbound, Michael.
Hey, it's good to be here too. How come I'm not getting like a drink or something? This is kind of insulting. We got a podcast you're running here.
Come on.
Well, I offered, but you know.
See, they give you a little laugh,
So today we are going to talk about PK Hack. We got two very talented PK hackers here. I think marginally talented, right? Is that the?
I am aware of the program.
Yeah,
I
know
that it is something that exists.
I think one of the people programmed it. I don't know what the deal with that is, but I guess we'll talk about that later. So before all that, we got to go over the things we normally do every week, which is we've only done this twice before. So if you need a refresher on what all that is, we're going to go over fan art of the week, artist spotlight, and the newly revived theories. Both the badges have been brought back, the two dancing octopi badges. And they're great, so you should want to win them. You should submit theories to me right now. There's a prompt, which we haven't decided on the one for the next one, but I'll edit it in and pretend that I'm not editing this at all. So, the fan art of the week winner is Gigan Mage. Who does this wonderful Paula animation where she's casting fire, and it's very, very smooth. The line work is very clean, and I could never draw anything like this in my life.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It sort of reminds me of something sort of like from Gravity Falls, or like it's very close to being like a professionally animated cartoon. And I just can't help but think back to like the early days of fan art where the animations were basically like really terrible flash animations with stick figures and primary colors and very little movement at all.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and it says under, like, I've just started dabbling in animation again. It's like, oh, this is dabbling. Oh my.
Dabbling.
I don't even. Yeah.
So yeah, congrats to Gigan Mage. They did a wonderful job. They already
I gotta say, there's this other great picture of a duster eating cheese, but you just sort of got unlucky because me and Michael are vegan. So,
Oh yeah, this is the vegan hacking podcast, by the way. So none of the fan art or anything winners from this week have any meat or cheese or butter or any fun stuff in their images or hacks or whatever.
Yeah,
we need to support the animals here on Starman.net. I know there's so many monkeys getting zapped and all that other stuff, hitting snakes with baseball bats. It's really bad. But before all that, before we hit a snake with a baseball bat, we need to go over the artist spotlight, which is a bit different from what we usually do. We are going to be showcasing a musician and hacker today, and I'll let one of you do the honors. The artist spotlight winner is
Mr. Tenda.
It's not. It's Mr. Tenda.
What an upset!
No.
Did not
Actually, we're
expect
kicking Mr. Tenda off the podcast, and he's being banned from the forum as we speak.
Oh,
so
you can't do that.
I don't think you have the power to do that. I think that is an empty threat.
Oh,
I actually think Mr. Tenda hacked the forums together too, so he's really the one in control. Just saying.
I can flash my staff emblem and pretend I'm important, so you better be afraid.
Well, I'm Mr. Tenda, so.
Well, that explains everything. So the winner is Reg?
Is it Reg or is it Reg? I was just assuming it was Reg.
I actually asked him this, and it's actually Reg, like
okay,
Reginald.
it is like Reginald. All right.
Is his full name Reginald?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I don't think it is. But anyway, yeah, let's hear it for Reg.
I don't have a kazoo like our previous guests had, so Sorry, we're not doing kazoo jingles this week. But yeah, we picked a musician this time around, which is something that I don't think has ever happened on Artist Spotlight. But being someone who makes music myself, I feel like music goes unappreciated on the forum, really. Like, there's no badges for it, really. So I wanted to sort of take the time to say, yes, the things people are doing matter. When I go to do the Artist Spotlight, I'm also going to be considering other forms of art, whether it be music or if you want to send a video of you dancing, I'll call it an art because that's, you know, it's art.
In other words, if you draw something, screw you.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
There's no reason for you to draw. It's terrible. It's a bad idea. So don't do it.
You draw too, right?
No, I've never drawn a thing in my life.
But yeah, no, I think it's good that you're, giving some spotlight to the musicians. Next time you can give it to, the sculptors, right? We actually have some. I don't know if you guys have seen. There's some crazy sculptures out there. There's, as you said, I don't know. What else is there?
I don't know. I've seen
Is that it?
I've seen people do like really creative stuff with like video and stuff too. I just think in general, things that aren't visual art go underground, I guess, and it's unfortunate because some of those take a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, like Earthbound hacks, right? That's the highest form of art, actually, if you were to ask me.
Yeah, it's like right next to the Mona Lisa. Like it's
Right
Mona
next to
Lisa
it.
and Mr. Tenda's Wacky Adventure.
It's literally right next to it. If you've probably never even seen the Mona Lisa, but it's right next to it. No one even sees it.
So, we have some mailbag submissions this this bye week. And we're going to answer them right here and right now.
Like, is what we answer the questions? Or
Yeah.
Is that how this works? Okay.
So,
All right, let him rip.
the first one from Eggman199. If you could choose one user to promote to a mod, who would you promote? To what subforum and why?
Mr. Tenda. I would promote Mr. Tenda.
I would
I would
Because-
also promote Mr. Tenda to every single forum.
Yeah.
think I would promote every single user. And so everyone just has this awful, terrible mod war, and like the last mod standing gets to be the only mod.
I think that would just escalate things. I think you would have like if everyone's a mod, there'd be like super mods, and then maybe everyone would be made a super mod, and they'd be like uber mods, and then it would just keep going and going, and then chaos. So, in closing, yes, I'm in favor of this plan.
Yeah, I think it's the only solution, actually. So you listening to this, you're doing a good job at your modding position. You're my favorite mod, whoever you are.
Thank you so much for being such a great mod.
And Eggman also asks,
Wait, he gets two why does he get two questions?
because he said
That's a little unfair, don't you think? I mean, you should get like one a week, or one every 2 weeks, actually. So you just put that one away. We don't need it.
All right, yeah. We're just not going to answer it.
Okay.
Sorry, Eggman.
Well, now I want to know what it is.
All right. Who are you most looking forward to meeting at Camp Fangamer?
Mr. Tenda.
Mr. Tenda is the answer to every question.
Yeah, it's so weird, but no. Okay, no. Seriously, Andrew, who are you most looking forward to meeting?
I don't know. I met a
Don't
bunch.
say Mr. Tenda.
I met a bunch of Starman.netters at MagFest, so I'm excited to see them again, I guess.
All right, can we talk about Camp Fangamer, not MagFest, please?
Yeah.
We're trying to get people to come to Camp Fangamer, not MagFest.
Yeah.
So, just
MagFest is dumb. You should go to Camp Fangamer because there's Earthbound there. And there's going to be this panel was recently announced, which I'm the most excited for this Eat Off panel between Sith and Boots. I don't know if you're familiar with the mac and cheese Boots' adventure with mac and cheese craft dinner. So in Forum Valhalla, there's a thread wherein Boots eats craft dinner that's been expired for like 2 or 3 years or something, and so that started this whole like this war, and it's going to be a panel at Camp Fangamer where Sith and Boots are going to eat terrible, awful foods, and it has nothing to do with Earthbound, I guess, but that's okay.
well, that sounds disgusting.
That's
Yeah, that sounds like the worst thing.
yeah. I hope one of them throws
That
up.
does not sound very vegan.
I think that's
I don't know. You could probably do just a vegan food eating contest because as a vegan, a lot of the vegan food out there is just the worst.
Well, that's true. Sorry, what was the question? What was this guy's second question again? Did we forget?
who are you
who are we
looking
looking
forward?
most forward to meeting?
Oh, okay. I'm looking most forward to meeting Andrew.
Aw.
I can't answer this question because this is too far away for me.
Aw.
I'm in Toronto, and that's like a 40-hour drive to Tucson. So I can't really make it.
Yeah, I guess who was it? Eggman seems to forget that going to a convention is expensive. What if I wasn't going at all? I mean, I am, but
You're going.
yeah,
You're going.
I'm going. And you're going with the $1,000 I'm paying you per hour for this podcast, so you better be thankful for all that. So we got some more submissions.
Oh yes, more questions. Let's do this.
Sith asks, if you could live in the world of your favorite game series, would you? What would it be? And you could never play these games ever again, even Tropical Freeze. I don't know if people are in on that whole thing, but...
If you could live in the world of your favorite game series, would you do it?
Yes.
That's the question?
Yes, but you could never
And you
ever
can't
play the
play
game
it?
again.
But you're living in the game, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Okay.
My top two favorite games are medieval fantasy games, and I don't want to live in a medieval world. So I will take a pass, and I will say no. I'd rather play Final Fantasy Tactics and Baldur's Gate than be in the worlds of them.
Well, I think...
I would want to be... Oh, no, sorry, you go ahead.
Okay. The world in Tropical Freeze always falls apart once you jump onto a platform, so I would never want to live there because I would probably die immediately. So I think I would probably not live in that world.
Okay, then where do you want to live?
Italy's cool.
No, that's not a game.
It can be.
That's a real place.
I'm sure there's
No,
a game
it's-
set in Italy somewhere.
There's the Italian Job video game. I think that's the closest that I know of. Okay, but anyway, I'd pick Pokemon. That's where I would live.
That's actually a pretty
They
cool
just-
choice.
Yeah,
I just
that is a
want to go
pretty good
there
choice.
because you know what? First of all, it seems like there's no problems there.
If the Pokemon hurt you, do you actually feel pain though? Like in the cartoon, Ash always got burnt by his Charizard or zapped by his Pikachu, and he doesn't die. He's always
There's
fine a minute later. But is this implying that
Yeah,
you'd be
you would
fine
be
a minute
fine
later?
a minute later.
Or
There's actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Reddit,
Oh.
but I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. There's a forum called Who Would Win, and they basically pit fictional characters against each other. And they said based on what he's endured in the cartoon series, Ash is basically superhuman, and he has super strength, and he's basically immune to electricity and fire because he's getting nuked by these things that basically would tear down buildings, and he's just totally fine a minute later. So in conclusion, Ash is a superhero, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and that's the world I want to live in. So, sounds great.
yeah, I think that's a good plan.
Oh,
Oh my
here we
So
go.
gosh.
Eggman has
Okay.
another question. Actually, he has two more. What is this? Eggman, you don't get 4 questions. This doesn't happen. Okay, if I sent a music file, would you play it on the podcast?
Absolutely
If
not.
If it's relevant, maybe, but probably not, because then I'll just get a bunch of music things, and that'd probably be bad. And also, how can one appear on the show? Is it a thing of chance or volunteering?
You have to go through so much paperwork you wouldn't even believe. Oh my god, I had to go down, give them a sample of my DNA, which is the weirdest part. I didn't even get that. And then I had to pay $500, and also I had to sign an NDA. So if you could do all that, and you can pass the test, you can get in.
It's not something I just go up to random people and I'm like, okay, hello stranger, you can be on my podcast. No, it's usually just, okay, I have a thing I want to talk about. Who are people who know about this thing?
Well, it seems like this guy knows how to ask questions, and a lot of them. So maybe
Yeah,
you
so
should
maybe
have
I'll
him
do a
on.
podcast about asking questions, where we just ask questions.
Or you could have him on every week to ask like 5 questions and make it like a little segment. He just pops in for a little bit.
Eggman, this is your chance. Send me the audio. Okay, we'll do it.
In question form. Send the audio in question form, like Jeopardy.
Question form. Yeah. All right. And from Ultimate Gamer, another question for podcast. Former U.S. President Nixon is trying to steal your pants. What do you do? What do you do? He asks you, what do you do twice?
What? I don't know. I think I could outrun him. He doesn't seem like he's that spry. Also, I'm in Canada, so maybe I'd sick my prime minister on him as well.
I would let him steal my pants.
Wait,
But
you're gonna let Nixon take your pants, and you're gonna let him get away with that?
do you know how great of a news story that would be?
Nah, he probably steals pants all the time.
Oh, okay. Nixon can't have my pants anymore.
Yeah, I'm not even going to answer the question, so no comment.
We're going
Aren't
to
we doing theories?
yes, theories.
Yes.
I know, I very, very recently announced this, so I was surprised at how many entries we actually got. But the winner of theories this week is a B I am not. My theories committee, that is me and Ostricho, decided this was the best theory so far, because it's both thought-provoking and, in Ostricho's words, outright disgusting. So
Well, now I'm dying to hear it. Are you going to tell us the theory?
the theme for this week was, what is the origin of Master Belch?
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought this one was pretty cool, actually.
Just read us the damn theory.
Okay. It was a particularly unusual case. The child was obviously sick to his stomach. All the symptoms were there. However, it was like he was keeping it all bottled up inside, as if he was worried that expelling his sickness would make him weak or uncool. Also, the kid was a brat. The entire time I examined him, he complained loudly, threatened me, and was just generally everything I loathed about children. I was a doctor, though. I had to treat him, and I worried his father would be even worse, perhaps violent. I tried the normal methods. I told him to simply do it. Simply do it, to which he responded that he didn't have to. I gave him medicine he refused to take. So I simply wrapped the medication in a slice of cheese. Oh, sorry. I broke our vegan rule.
Podcast ruined.
Sorry, you have to pick another theory.
Which
No,
the
just
little
kidding.
monster
Okay.
happily ate. Still nothing, though. I was out of options. I told his parents he had to stay overnight for observation. After being yelled at and threatened, I decided to waive any fees. Curiously, the parents were not the least bit concerned that their child would be left overnight with someone else. It's almost as if they didn't really care. Once I told the child he could eat junk food and watch TV all night in bed, he was ecstatic. I researched the problem as much as I could, but I found no answers. A stomach virus causes reactions, no matter how much you fight it. This child, though, somehow, despite his pain and obvious sickness, seemed almost normal. He hurt, but he refused to give in. I decided I needed a break from researching and walked up to my brother's little shack. My brother was always an interesting fellow. We joked I got all the smarts and he got all the passion. Oftentimes, when work was too stressful, I'd spend time with him. The comforting smell of garlic and fanciful stories always made me happy. On this particular evening, he was out of his hole, turning around a jar. It looked like a jar of honey. My brother told me it was called fly honey, but that name alone frightened him. He tossed it to me and jokingly said it might be good for medicinal purposes. I laughed, but held on to it. Another decoration for my office. My brother said he had found something exciting while digging for treasure. I listened to him talk about the gold he knew was down there. He climbed up the ladder and handed me a pinch of dirt. He said he could see gold flecks in it. I looked down and felt entranced. The world seemed to melt away, and all that remained was the dirt, and I don't know how long I was frozen in time, but inspiration struck like a bolt of lightning. I left his shack without saying a word. I felt possessed, like a zombie. I kept the pinch of dirt in my tightly cupped hand, like a treasure. I just knew the dirt was the answer. I needed to get the kid to eat the dirt. I heard it speak to me. It was easy enough. I sprinkled it on top of the bowl of ice cream, and covered it in the disgusting honey. It smelled worse than anything I had ever smelled. The kid gobbled it up quicker than most regular kids would. Then, he stopped. The look on his face was immediate panic. I came to my senses. I was certain I had poisoned the kid. I was frozen as I watched him regurgitate the most vomit I've ever seen in my life. More than he could hold. More than anyone could hold. It seemed to be endless. Then, there was darkness. I came to on the floor of his room. The vomit was gone, and the child lay sleeping across from me. His steady breathing calmed my heart. I slowly got up and checked his vitals. He was fine. It was as if he had never been sick at all. There were no signs of sickness anywhere except for a lingering the stench. I called his parents to tell them the good news. His father implied his son had been faking and yelled about what he could do to the kid. Monster or not, I couldn't bear it. I told him their son had simply and typo there, and a rare and violent stomach disease that caused extreme discomfort before being violently expelled and then cured. The father then reminded me I had waived the fee and commanded me to send the child home. The child didn't speak a word to me after waking. I called my brother, and he said he didn't remember me visiting him that night. I'd always wondered if the whole thing had been a dream. I mean, how could such a giant pile of barf simply disappear, as if it's wandered on its own?
That is some like radio play level stuff there. I feel like it should have been like, yeah, exactly that. There's like sound effects and like multiple actors and stuff. Kind of like an audiobook almost.
Yeah, I think that was a fantastic
Now I gotta be on.
theory.
Now I gotta be on. When I asked you to read the theory, I thought it was just gonna be like a sentence. I didn't mean to. It was great. I liked it. I didn't mean to make you read all that though. Even though I enjoyed you reading it. So.
Yeah, I literally thought it was going to be like, I think that Master Belch is from outer space, period. That was like a little novella. That was cool.
I don't know. Do I make a good dramatic actor?
Yeah, I'll give you an 8 out of 10.
I'm gonna say 9 out of 10.
So yeah, I believe that is B's first win in theories. You need 5 to get the badge, and 7 to get the cooler badge that you actually want. However, if you submit 10 theories, you get a new badge, which we sort of talked about before we killed theories the first time. But it's just a participation badge, so if you really want that badge, you better be submitting every other week when we do theories. You'll submit, right, Max and
Yeah,
Michael?
I've got some cooking up right now. I'm just getting ready to type them all up right now.
I have no original thoughts.
So who are you guys? Why are you here?
Who am I? Who are we? Who are you?
Yeah. I have no idea.
And you're asking us who we are? Oh,
Yeah.
God, can you believe this guy? He's asking us who we are.
I can't believe it either. I mean, I don't even know what his real name is. Oh, actually, no, he told me his real name. But is that actually his real name? Do we know? No, I don't think so. I think this is all a facade. I don't think this is even a podcast. I don't think he's actually hit the record button. This is all illusion.
No. Me neither. It's almost as if we, completely dropped this recording, started over from scratch.
Should we do, like, little bios of ourselves, like, for serious?
Yeah, why don't you start?
Okay. I am Michael. People probably know me as Hyperbound. I had a hack about, almost 10 years ago. That got a little bit more popular than it should have. It was actually featured in a couple different places. The hack was also called Hyperbound. And it ended up in Anna Anthropy's book, which got me a lot of website traffic, and internet dollars, which is actually no dollars. And then I've sort of been hanging around. I've been hacking Earthbound since that first hack. I have a hack called Unearthed, which I've been sort of toiling away at over the last few years. When I'm not hacking, I'm actually an audio producer, which is why my voice sounds so good right now. And I work for a company up in Canada that's a non-for-profit, and I produce audio programming. Mr. T?
I don't know how. I mean, mine's going to be a lot stupider compared to that, but I one day I went on the internet and I somehow got to the PK Hack forums, and I wanted to be cool, so I started learning about how to program and stuff like that, and then I made a Coil Snake eventually, which some people have used to do stuff like the Mother remake is using it, and a lot of fan translations have used it. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
I like how you like downplayed the fact that you made Coil Snake. You're basically like the father of this generation of Earthbound hacking. You're like, yeah, I made this thing, whatever.
Yeah, it's only the thing everyone's using to hack Earthbound.
Oh well, I mean, it's nothing,
So before they used that, there was JHack, correct?
Yeah.
And that was
Those
a
were dark
mess or
days,
something?
to be honest. I mean, it was amazing at what it could do. I used JHack a lot when I made Hyperbound, but the stability of JHack compared to Coil Snake, like it's not even a contest. Like JHack, I would have to back up my ROM like every hour for fear of it basically imploding. And I'm only half joking. I would be like editing a map, and then I'd like save, and I'd be like, oh, all the maps in the game are corrupt now. Whoopsie poopsie, guess I lost 60 minutes there. So Coil Snake, I guess the main difference is you don't really change anything in the ROM until you compile. So the mistakes are a lot easier to track down. And I'm talking like a programmer, and I'm not. So maybe Mr. Tenda, you can, I guess Max, since we're using real names, Max, you can elaborate why Coil Snake is better from a technical perspective.
Yeah, like you're saying, like, JHack, it's... Yeah, it was a huge pain in the behind. Even though I take some responsibility. It was back in the days, and some people made it, and it's just one of those things you make on the internet, but people started to trying to use it for stuff way past what it was designed for, and that's when they started having problems. Especially with what happened with Tomato was working on a remake of Mother 1 in Earthbound's engine, and he had to stop because JHack was just breaking everything. And also the end of, if you guys have played HS's or have heard of HS's hack called Hollow's End, which he came out with a while ago, the end of the game, everything gets all glitched up as part of the storyline because that's what was happening to the hack itself because of JHack. So it's pretty notorious, and that's because it edits all the. This is getting a little technical, but it edits all the stuff like directly. So if you keep doing that over and over, things are going to go crazy. But Coil Snake pulls everything out of the ROM, and you edit it separately, and then you pack it all back in at the last second.
Okay, in layman's terms, Coil Snake doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say
yeah.
JHack sucked. I would just say that JHack was just a little less stable than Coil Snake. And Coil Snake, it's very hard to destroy your game with Coil Snake, and you can almost always fix it when it happens.
I just love how with Coil Snake, like I played around with it a little bit when I was working on some. I don't know. Am I supposed to talk about Edwin Jones at all?
Yeah, why not?
You mean the
Please,
coolest game hack
please,
ever? The coolest game hack due out sometime. Actually, I'm not going to say a date because I don't know the date. But it's awesome, and it's musical, and it's a game. It's good. Talk about it.
Yeah, you should go to www.edwinandjones.com or go to Twitter @EdwinandJones, and you can follow the project and find out what it's all about.
Yeah. So I'm not much of a hacker, really. I've done like sprites and stuff for Edwin and Jones, and like, I was like really impressed with how in Coil Snake it just exports everything as .png files pretty much, like all the images. I mean, like it's something that pretty much anyone could at least pick up and play around with, which is great. Just it's something that really helps with collaboration with people, which is something that's really neat in the PK Hack community is how, I don't know, how interconnected it really is. Like, I feel like you have so many different people submitting sprites and, like, music, and, like, anyone could really help out if they had the artistic ability or, the drive to learn to have, some of this stuff.
Well, I think the key thing is that you don't have to be good at everything. There's lots of people in the community who can help fill in the gaps. Like I had a fellow by the name Messianic who made a lot of sprites for my game. Dolly's Clock did pretty much all the music for my game. Mr. Tenda and HS and a bunch of other people have helped out with different aspects of the coding. So like you just really have this sort of hive mind of people who all have different talents kind of working together, and they're willing to help each other out too. So it's just like a little bit of give and take there, which is nice.
Yeah, one of the things with the PK Hack board I really notice is it's very segregated from the rest of the forum, really. Like, it's a very different atmosphere, I guess. The people there are doing different things than you see on the rest of the forum, and so I guess a lot of people who mainly focus on the fan art side and, I don't know, just the actual, the discussion side of the forum, they don't really fully appreciate how it's different from the rest of the forum, I guess.
Yeah, we're different.
Yeah, I actually think the PK Hack forum, like, it gets a lot of traffic. Like, if you always look down at the week's popular topics or today's popular topics, usually the Mother remake is, like, always, like, the top 5. So...
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really looking at the PK Hack stuff, but don't know what to say to comment on it, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know. I'm not a programmer, obviously, so I dabble a little bit, but it's one of those things where people do something really amazing, and it's like, wow, that's cool, and there's not much else you can say about that, but, like, PK Hack people should know that, yes, this is very cool stuff you're doing. I could never do this complex ASM stuff, or, you know... I mean, I guess I could if I tried it. Don't listen to me. If you think you can do something, try it.
Well, I think one of the cool things to come out of the Coil Snake PK Hack community too is that there's a lot of projects that aren't really like, I don't want to say not hard because they are very difficult to do, but not super complicated from like a ASM hacking perspective. Like we've had a few translations come out of the community, which is very difficult to do, but I mean it's more work than it is like tearing the ROM to pieces and then putting it back together. And those are sort of like the little things you can do with it. Or like someone was doing a hack, I can't remember what it was, I think Earthbound Repainted, and it was just like swapping some images in and out. So you can do these little sort of, not quick hacks, but like accessible hacks where someone can come in and not have to learn a coding language and not have to learn how to like break down a ROM to its bits and pieces and still make something that's neat and different and unusual.
Yeah, it's really cool to see just how different all the hacks really are too. Like, even just in scope. It's nice to see people, like, try to do these hacks, even if people have done the Earthbound Uncensored type things a billion times. It's nice to see them pop up anyway, just because it's someone that is trying hacking and, like, interested in doing something with these very, honestly, accessible tools.
You know, honestly, whenever I see those and, you know, some person comes on the forum and they're like, hey, check it. I remember the funniest one to me. I don't know why this one sticks out to me. It was like that, like it was some kind of like MLG version of like Earthbound or something, and it was just very silly. And it had like Ness and Pokey were going to like pre-order Destiny for the Xbox One instead of like going to see the Meteorite. It was like very strange, but I saw it. I'm like, wow, like number one, like. I can't believe that someone did this. Number two, I can't believe someone did this using like a tool that I made. It's very interesting to see all these crazy stuff that pop up, and there's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think aside from Earthbound itself, it's great to see when like Jeff Mann recently did a similar tool set for Mother 3, which even though it's not as usable as Coil Snake is, it's still like really incredible to see. I don't know, just seeing people tear apart the games, use them in a way that's not how they were originally intended. There's something really fascinating about that, especially from like just an observer perspective. Like I've seen some really cool hacks even outside the Earthbound community. Like I'm very big on Donkey Kong Country, and there was this one hack where they replaced like Dixie in Donkey Kong Country 2 with Donkey Kong. So like from the first game. And it's like it's something that I mean I didn't ask for, but it's really cool, you know.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like when you're a kid and you're talking to your friends and like everyone remembers Mario 64. You're always like, hey, you know, you can get like Luigi if you do, you know, blah blah blah. But like it's obviously not true, but with like game hacking and stuff like that and modding, like you can sort of like do that stuff. Yeah, I think that has something to do with why some people like it.
I think there's a couple of reasons too. I mean, I think it's a really interesting way to subvert games as well, because you look at some of the hacks out there, maybe not so much in the Earthbound community, but in some of the other games. And they really kind of take the game and they sort of turn it into a metaphor or like kind of subvert the mechanics. One of my favorites was, I don't know if you guys saw, but it was Sonic 2 XL. And basically, they made Sonic, instead of picking up rings, they were sort of like a metaphor for onion rings. And the more he had, the fatter he would get and the slower he would get. And if he ate too many, he couldn't move and you lost. So, I mean, the first game, when you get down to it, it's sort of a consumption metaphor. You're sort of picking up rings to get more powerful and go faster. But in this one, you have to balance picking up rings so you don't die and navigating the level and becoming too fat and being unable to move entirely.
There was a similar hack for Earthbound, though, where you're supposed to like avoid enemies so you don't level up to 99, and whenever you hit 99, the game would end. I don't know who programmed that, but like, I thought that was the coolest thing.
I'm pretty sure those were actually made by the same person.
Was that Captain Bozo? I think it was Captain Bozo.
So Captain Bozo was the guy. He was involved in PK Hack too, and he also did the Sonic thing.
Yeah, and those were both really cool hacks because you just took a mechanic from the game and you just totally turned it on his head. And I mean, I think stuff like that's becoming more popular. I mean, you look at Mario Maker is a great example because before people would hack Mario and make these insanely difficult levels, sort of taking mechanics from the game and using them in ways that had never really been done before. And then Nintendo was basically like, you know what, this is kind of cool. We're going to let everybody do this. And they basically made not hacking software, but it's essentially what hacking software is, where you can take the elements of a game, put them together, and let anybody make something new. So I think it's really gaining momentum in a lot of ways.
My favorite part about hacking in general is, I guess, it's something that Nintendo doesn't really have is like a game creator, really, that you can just share with people. Like, I think Mario Maker is fantastic because it gets that sort of game design itch out there in a way that they can share with an audience. The thing with hacks is, like, you're distributing them publicly, and it's like you see these hacking communities crop up, like PK Hack and Super Mario World Central. I think that's what it is. The Mario World hacking. Everyone has all these different ideas, and it's frankly amazing to me that Nintendo hadn't done something like Mario Maker until now. I mean, obviously they're not very good at handling anything online, but...
Well, I think Nintendo also has been sort of precious about its intellectual property in a lot of ways. They didn't really want other people to sort of handle it and risk someone tarnishing their image. And I think it's only recently that they sort of opened the door to kind of allow a little bit more variety in their games. So hopefully you're right. Mario Maker is just like the first step in a longer sort of evolution for Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, given how successful it was, I think it's a given that they're just gonna, do some kind of like successor to it.
I would love to see a Zelda Maker, like old top-down Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past kind of deal, where you could kind of arrange your own levels that way.
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool.
I actually dabbled in Zelda hacking back in the day, but I sort of had to make a choice. I couldn't hack the two, both Earthbound and Zelda. I think that's too much time. But I would love to see like an easy-to-use tool set and see what could be done with that.
Zelda hacking, I'm not like super familiar with, but I've seen like I'm trying to think what that Zelda hack was called. I thought it was the coolest thing.
Well, the one
Parallel
that's like
Worlds?
yeah, that's the biggest one.
Yeah, Parallel Worlds. I think that's what it was. Where it was like, I think it was Link to the Past, and
Yeah.
basically it was just like this ridiculously hard game. It had like an almost Nintendo level of polish, even though it was basically its own thing,
Well, I think we wanted to touch on this, and I know this is on our itinerary list, but one of the questions we sort of posed was, why hack a game instead of making a custom-written game? And I think that ties into what you're saying. Because you sort of are giving limits, but the limits that you are given, you are familiar with, and everybody who's ever played the game is familiar with. So you kind of skip that first step of establishing expectations for the player. Like with my game, Hyperbound, it plays nothing like Earthbound except for the fact that you move around and interact with things in the same way. So, I mean, just getting past that first hurdle is actually very difficult to kind of find an audience. But like saying that, this is very much like Earthbound, but automatically gets people playing it. And I think that goes the same for Zelda or for Sonic or for anything. It's just a good way to draw people in.
When you're first starting out a hack, you have like a framework, I guess. Even if the tools are restrictive, you still do have like something built up that you can dismantle and like rearrange. And I think that is also like something that's really appealing to hackers, um, probably because you see these people. It's like, okay, I want to make a game like Earthbound. Why don't I just hack Earthbound? From that initial setup perspective, it's definitely appealing to start with a an existing game. Like personally, I'm very much into like game making games, like things like I don't know if people know about my Project Spark Conquer remake, but like there are so many limitations in that Project Spark engine. Project Spark does like a game making game for the Xbox One and Windows 8. You have to sort of think backwards. Like so many things with making a game on a pre-existing engine.
You're not inventing the wheel.
You have a lot of work done for you.
You don't have basically the tick and tack of the game. Like when you're hacking Mario, you have a guy that can jump. And people kind of take for granted how hard it is to like code a jump that feels good and that people like to play. And I think once you have those baseline mechanics out of the way, then you're free to build upon them. And like with Earthbound, like it's nice to have, oh, I can walk around this world and I have tile sets that kind of work, but work well enough. And I have basically enemy stats and other stuff like that. And that all the heavy lifting in terms of like just baseline coding is there. And then you're just free to sort of mod and hack and turn it into something that works for you. And I sort of poke fun at the tile system in Earthbound because it makes no sense whatsoever. And it's a big pain in the butt to use. But
Yeah,
aside from that, it's great.
the whole thing is sort of like, yeah, well, first of all, a lot of the people who, lots of people who get started out with game making or they've never done it before, they probably say like, oh, I want to make something, like Mario, or I want to make like an RPG, like blah, blah, blah.
They're inspired
And
by something.
Yeah, they're inspired by something. And, maybe these people, they don't know the first thing about, writing an engine. So it's sort of, it gives them, it's basically like, oh, I can just use this, right? And so I think that's a big part of it.
And I certainly have no coding knowledge, really. I mean, I can use, I think JavaScript is probably the extent of how deep I can code. But still, I have basically no problem using anything in CoilSnake until it's like ASM hacking, which I just bug people on the Slack chat about.
Speaking of, there is a PK Hack Slack chat. Maybe we should be plugging that. Maybe, possibly.
Well, it's
I
in
don't
the
know.
PK Hack forum, so yeah, check it out if you ever, I don't know, don't have anything better to do somehow.
Yeah, if you're interested in PK hacking, yeah, that's the place to not be. So, what I am most curious about, what got you guys into hacking? Like, how did you go from like a new person on the forum who didn't know what they were doing to making the tools that you've already made?
Well, for me, what attracted me to ROM hacking was the prestige and the fame and the glory and the riches. I think all of those were really what called out to me.
Oh yeah, how much did you get paid? We paid you, I guess, $1,000 to be on this podcast.
Yeah,
Uh,
and per hour. So, um,
oh, we're
and
getting close to my limit. I better-
so anyway, yeah, I part of it was back way the PK hack community. It sort of has its own like, everyone who's listening to this probably knows the whole like Starman.net history with all the people and blah blah blah. And a lot of people might not know there's also like a PK hack history, which is like sort of parallel with some people who are in common, like Tomato and some other people, but it actually has like all these different people in it. So a lot of the stuff that got people interested in StarMet.net was the people. Oh, these people are so cool. I want to like get to know these people. That's
Impress your
that's sort of,
senpai.
yeah, of course, right? So that also went on in the PK hack world, and I think that's a lot of people you can go on there. This is sort of everywhere on the forum, but everyone's always like, how do I get the PK hack badge? How do I get the upside down blue PK hack badge? So I think that was part of it for me when I was like 10 years old or whatever. And I was a huge idiot. And I wanted to be cool, so I thought like, oh man, if I learn about how a really old video game works, then I'll be cool, right? And it just sort of kept what's the right word? Going downhill from there, and here I am.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm cool enough to be on this podcast with you. I think you're way cooler. I'm gonna be quiet and not be uncool.
I'm only paying you $100 an hour, so.
Hey, I'll take it. I work in the media industry. That's a nice payday. Should I talk about my hacking origins?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think mine's a little bit less historical and sort of more of a utility thing, actually. When I was in university, I was in a program called New Media, and it was New Media before a lot of the cool new media stuff existed, like easy-to-use game-making programs and social media.
So it was old new media? Was it old new media? Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, that's exactly what we called it in class. That's a program name, okay. Old New Media.
Oh, wow.
No, but basically for my senior project, I wanted to do a game. And back then, your choices were sort of use something like an old iteration of Game Maker, which wasn't very good, code something from scratch, which I couldn't do, mod a 3D game, like I guess it would have been like a original kind of source engine kind of thing, which was cool, but I didn't really know how to do the texturing and stuff, or kind of just look for something else. And the something else I found was with PK Hack, which was, I guess, JHack at that time. And I decided to make my first hack Hyperbound as part of my class assignment. And I sort of gravitated towards JHack for a couple of reasons. One, because at the time I felt it was really easy to use hacking software, which it isn't by today's standards. And two, because I was familiar with Earthbound. I was always a fan, and I sort of wanted something in a modern setting, so I ended up using that. And then after I was done with Hyperbound, I just sort of hung around the forums, kind of worked on my new hack, which will be released sometime before the heat death of the universe, and sort of just has been keeping tabs on all the hacking that's going on as well, which is always fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't have an origin story, so I have to sit here awkwardly. I've done like a few hacking things actually on the site. I've done like the Earthbound Zero randomizer, which we don't call it that anymore because Earthbound Beginnings now. So like the PK hack board has always been this thing that I've awkwardly watched from the sidelines. So I think I sort of see like how people could have that sort of, I don't know, slow progression from just joining the forum and like seeing this board to like, oh yeah, I want to join that and learn it too. The thing that interests me the most, being a music person, is like the music hacking. Like I tried, is it just EB Music Editor, Mused?
That's literally what it's called, yeah.
Yeah. So the Earthbound Music Editor, and that was absolutely fascinating to me because as far as producing music, I guess it's like the closest I've ever seen to an actual representation of how they probably made music in the old games. Like you read in all these interviews, people who worked on like Super Nintendo games, like David Wise always talks about in interviews. He's the guy who did the music for Donkey Kong Country, and he talks about how he would basically write the music in hex, which is basically what you do in the Earthbound Music Editor. And so it's sort of fascinating to me that people are still, even with how, I guess, laborious the process is, how much music and stuff is actually produced using the Earthbound ROM. To see like people not only hacking, it's something that it makes me wonder how people possibly could have found out how these things work aside from just punching in random numbers. Like they found where the music data is. Okay, how do we get this to work? And it's fascinating that they have this workable system now and people actually using it and producing things, even with it being so clunky and messy.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you think about, you think of some really like weird, you think like, oh, if I leave my key, under my doormat, no one's ever going to look there. And so that's probably what the game programmers were thinking, like, oh, we're just going to make this game and like no one's ever going to toy around with it. But then like the PK Hack people come around and they like take the key out from under the mat and then like make a zillion copies and then like make a statue out of the keys and then like make a musical instrument out of the keys. Or it's sort of like people are like really going insane with this stuff. And that's part of why it's cool. It's like it's sort of like when you see the TAS stuff or the speedrun stuff, it's kind of like that where you see people do it and you're like, whoa, I can't believe someone would like go this far. So it's kind of like that, I think.
I don't know. That music editor, when I look at it, it looks like Matrix code. I don't know how people use it, and I am super impressed that people make completely original music using that, because it just looks like a cloud of numbers to me.
Yeah, same here. I don't get it at all. It's ridiculous.
I think it's impressive just to, like, you have to know not only music, but, like, you have to know how to use the hex codes and how to,
Yeah, it's definitely crazy.
So, one other thing I'd like to discuss before we end this off. If I were trying to get into hacking, where should I start? What should I do? Who should I go to? If I just, like, look at this, if I'm looking awkwardly at this board, like, oh, this is PK Hack, this is really cool, I want to impress my senpais. Like,
well, I would say, first think if you really want to do it, because, like we were just talking about, it is a lot of crazy stuff. So if you want to, like, mess around with Earthbound and have some fun, or you want to, like, make Earthbound harder or something, or if you want to, like, modify Earthbound or translate or something, like, yeah, definitely go to the PK Hack forums, check out the Coil Snake tutorial and stuff like that. Now, Michael, I don't know. I guess I'll see your reaction to this. If you're trying to make like some epic adventure, maybe you want to think like really carefully before trying to do it using the Earthbound ROM. I don't
think my suggestion, and I think this is a mistake a lot of people make, is they want their first hack to be enormous. They're like, for my very first hack, I'm going to do a 12-part outer space saga where I'm changing all the graphics, I'm changing all the music, and I'm changing all the text. And I look at that and I'm like, it's really hard to like seek to do that when you don't understand how the game works yet. I would suggest, like, if you want to get into hacking, start really, really small. Like, do a hack that's maybe like half an hour long, 10 new sprites, 1 new song, couple new enemies. See if you like hacking, and if you like hacking, go crazy, do whatever you want with it. But just know, if you are not a fan of the process, you're going to be locked in for a really, really long time for a set of tools that you may not be the biggest fan of. So start small. Then, if you love it, do something bigger. I like it a lot, and my hacks actually gotten a lot bigger and taken a lot longer than I thought it ever would. But I still like the tools enough where I haven't found that to be too discouraging. But a lot of hacks, like a lot of them you see, they pop up on the forums, they have these great ambitions, and after about 6 months, people just sort of disappear. So start small, to summarize.
Yeah, I think that like really applies in any sort of creative thing, even aside from hacking. Like if you're making a game, start small. You don't like immediately jump to your biggest,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely applies to anything. Like, even if you're someone using, like, I don't know, like Game Maker or something. I've never used Game Maker, but I'm assuming it's the same thing where, you can't just go in and be like, all right, I'm going to make my, like, 80-hour, 120-hour, globe-trotting adventure with, like, ancient civilizations in the crystal. Like, I don't know. That's not going to work. And, yeah, it's like you said, the same thing if you're drawing a picture, right? You can't just go and start, like, drawing, like, a giant, I don't know. Well, you're the art picture guy. You say something. Give me an example of something that you would not want to do. Yeah.
Don't start with the Sistine Chapel. Start with something tiny.
Yeah, and even if you like do that, then you might even just learn a bit. Just like, oh, this is how games. This is how games back in the day worked. So maybe like even if you just do something small, you can still get something out of it.
Yeah, like if you learn to hack Earthbound even like a little bit, you could probably try the same things with other games and stuff. Like, I think that's one of the things that's always really fascinating to me about hacking. You see some people that hack like multiple different types of games, and like people who make like fan translations and stuff, and they have to sort of learn how how these are pieced together. And I think it gets probably easier every time they go on to a different game because they learned something from
Yeah, and
making
I
the
think
last
hackers
one.
they sometimes sort of not graduate, but move on to making actual games. Like if it wasn't for Underbound, there'd be no Undertale. So I mean, that is absolutely not true. Actually, I'm not going to joke about that. I got a lot of emails, got a lot of tweets, got a lot of website traffic because people thought Underbound was a real thing and that I was involved somehow.
You got you got emails about it?
I got a couple of emails about it. My website the traffic just spiked one day, and I was like, "What is going on?" And then I saw someone on the Undertale wiki had linked to my blog. Like it was like I was a reference. It's like you could see this guy was involved in Underbound. It was a real thing, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw I think it was a few days ago. Toby actually had to tweet out like, "Guys, Underbound is not real." And
Doesn't exist.
it got to that extent. Like, I don't know. The post was so ridiculous. I wrote something like this is the hack that will usher in a new revolution for society or something. I wrote something so ridiculous. I can't believe people would take it seriously.
I like how he just was it you that just took images from hacks and like just inverted the colors and put them up?
Oh yeah, I just
It was
took,
amazing.
yeah, I just flipped the colors and uploaded them, and then people called me out and said like, "Hey, you stole that from you stole that from another ROM," and I'm like, "No, it's okay because I deleted the other ROM within 24 hours, and that's the rule for Nintendo." And then some people apparently took that. They're like, "Oh, he deleted the ROM in 24 hours. Apparently, Underbound the hack is deleted, and us Undertale historians will never get it." It's very strange.
But in all seriousness, Toby did come from the hacking community, and obviously he's become very successful and independently wealthy because of it. So there are success stories, and you can start as a hacker and move on to do, I don't want to say actual game hacking because hacks are actual games, but legal game hacking, I guess, would be the best word for it.
And then you can have people come back and look at your old hacks and then make some kind of ridiculous video about it, and that could be great. The game theorist and all that stuff.
Oh, I haven't actually seen that. Did they do one on the Halloween hack? I know a lot of people are discussing the Halloween hack now that Undertale was actually released.
Well, actually, people have kind of always been discussing it. It's actually, I think it's the most famous Earthbound ROM hack, or at least the most that I ever see people posting about online.
I think
so it's always
Toby
been
was
kind of a
ashamed
big
of it,
deal.
isn't he?
I mean,
At least the writing.
yeah.
I think as an artist, you're sort of always ashamed of your earlier works to a certain extent. Like I look back at Hyperbound, I haven't touched that game in 7 years because I'm just like, I don't want to look at this. I'm not proud of this anymore. It's probably lame because I was lame when I was that age and when I made it. So I think that's kind of natural. You look at things you made in the past, and even if other people like them, you don't necessarily like them because you could do better if you were to do it again. So I will say that if you were interested in my hack, you could go to www.theworldissquare.com and you can check out that hack and other work I do. Max has a website as well. It's www.edwinandjones.com, or if you want to follow him on Twitter, it's @EdwinandJones. And if you're just interested in Starman.net in general, you can go to www.starman.net, obviously, and just go on the forums tab, and you can see everything that we had on today's show, including theories and fan art and music and games and all sorts of fun stuff. And I believe this is a bi-weekly podcast.
Bi-weekly,
So
yep.
yeah. So I don't know when this will go up, but if you check back 2 weeks after you're listening to this, there will be another one. That's how you wrap up a program.
Oh, I think you should just record that and play it at the end of every podcast.
Yeah, you're much better at this whole radio thing than me.